This may be the most important distinction we discuss in this entire course, the difference between self-paced learning and asynchronous learning. You're taking this professional development course in a self-paced format. You're moving through modules on your own timeline, stopping and starting as your schedule allows. That's appropriate for this context. But when you're designing credit-bearing courses for your students, asynchronous doesn't mean and shouldn't mean self-paced. Let me explain why this distinction matters so much. Self-paced learning means students work through materials with minimal time constraints and often minimal instructor interaction. Think of a training module where you complete lessons whenever you want, and there's no cohort of fellow learners. You might have a final deadline, finished by the end of the semester, but the week-to-week structure is fluid. Interaction with the instructor is typically minimal and transactional. Asynchronous learning, by contrast, maintains a structured schedule and regular touchpoints without requiring everyone to be online simultaneously. Students have weekly modules with specific deadlines. The instructor is actively present throughout the week. Students interact with each other and with content on a regular rhythm. It's a course, not a training program. Here's the crucial difference. Self-paced learning prioritizes flexibility above community. Asynchronous learning creates flexibility within community. One is primarily transactional, the other is relational. The research on student success in online environments consistently shows that regular interaction with instructors and peers significantly impacts outcomes, particularly retention. Students who experience instructor presence, even asynchronously, are more likely to persist, more likely to engage deeply with content, and more likely to feel connected to the institution. When we design genuinely self-paced courses, we're essentially asking students to be entirely self-directed. For highly motivated students with strong time management skills and prior subject knowledge, this can work. But for the majority of undergraduates, especially first-generation students, and students managing work and family responsibilities, or students new to online learning, the absence of structure and regular connection becomes a barrier rather than a benefit. I've seen this firsthand. Early in my online teaching, I designed what I thought was a flexible course. Students could complete modules anytime within the semester. I thought I was being student-centered. Instead, I watched students procrastinate, fall behind, lose connection with each other and with me, and ultimately completion rates suffered. The flexibility I offered became overwhelming rather than empowering. So how do we maintain connection and engagement in asynchronous formats? Let me share 5 essential strategies. First, weekly rhythm and regular touchpoints. Establish a consistent course structure. Modules open on Mondays, discussions post by Wednesdays, responses due by Fridays, assignments due Sundays. This predictability helps students integrate your course into their weekly routine. They know when to expect new content and when you'll expect their engagement. Second, instructor visibility throughout the week. Don't just front-load content and disappear. Post a weekly welcome video or announcement. Drop into discussion boards midweek with questions or connections. Send individual check-ins to students who seem disengaged. This isn't hand-holding, it's presence. Students need to feel that you're in the course with them, not watching from a distance. Third, design for peer interaction around shared timelines. When students work on the same module during the same week, they can genuinely discuss the material together. Their discussion posts reference shared readings and respond to each other's thinking. This creates an intellectual community. In self-paced formats, students are essentially studying alone even when enrolled in the same course. Fourth, use synchronous options thoughtfully. Even in asynchronous courses, occasional synchronous elements can deepen connection. Optional office hours via video conference. Weekly drop-in Q&A sessions that you record for those who can't attend live, or guest speaker events. These create real-time connection while preserving the asynchronous foundation. The key word is optional. Never make synchronous attendance required in any asynchronous course, but do offer opportunities for those who want them. Fifth, build accountability through low-stakes, frequent assessment. Instead of 3 large exams, design weekly quizzes, reflection posts, or application activities. These aren't about catching students who didn't read. They're about creating regular engagement touchpoints, providing frequent feedback that tells students where they stand. In self-paced courses, students often don't know they're struggling until it's too late to recover. Here's what feels counterintuitive. True flexibility comes from structure, not from the absence of structure. When students know exactly what's expected each week, when assignments are due, and when they'll receive feedback, they can plan their time around those fixed points. They have flexibility in when during the week they engage, but the what and when create a framework. Unlimited flexibility, the self-paced model, often paralyzes students. They plan to work on the course later this week, which becomes this weekend, which becomes next week, and suddenly they're hopelessly behind. The structure of asynchronous courses with regular deadlines actually creates sustainable flexibility. I know some of you might be thinking this sounds like being on call 7 days a week. It doesn't have to be. Here's how I manage instructor presence sustainably. I establish specific days and times when I'm active in the course. My students know they'll receive a welcome message from me every Monday morning. They know I'll be in the discussion boards every Tuesday afternoon, and that I respond to emails within 24 hours Monday through Friday. They know I'll send a wrap-up email on Friday thanking them for their work and reminding them what needs to be completed. This creates predictable presence without requiring constant monitoring. I batch similar tasks. I grade all of one type of assignment in a sitting rather than dribbling grades in throughout the week. I record my weekly welcome videos on Friday afternoons for the upcoming week. I use Brightspace tools strategically. Intelligent agents can send automated check-ins to students who haven't logged in recently. Announcements go out on a schedule. I'm present and responsive, but I'm not online constantly. Let me be clear, there are contexts where self-paced learning works well. Professional development courses like this one, competency-based programs for working professionals, remedial or supplemental tutorials, these can succeed as self-paced experiences. The learners are typically self-directed adults, the content is often skills-based rather than conceptual, and community is less central to the learning. But for traditional, credit-bearing undergraduate courses, particularly those emphasizing critical thinking, disciplinary discourse, and intellectual community, asynchronous learning with structure and presence serves students far better than self-paced approaches. As you design or revise your asynchronous courses, I encourage you to reflect on this question. Am I creating a course or a content repository? Courses have rhythms, relationships, and regular interaction. Content repositories just house materials for students to access whenever. Your asynchronous course should feel alive. Students should know you're there, know their classmates are there, feel connected to an intellectual community, even if they're never in the same room or online at the same time. That's the power and promise of well-designed asynchronous learning, and that's what distinguishes it from self-paced formats. The structure you create, the presence you maintain, the community you foster, these aren't limitations on flexibility. They're the foundation that makes flexible learning sustainable and successful.